Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be looking at real-world problems involving finding the percent. Before we do that, let's review our percent proportion. So recall that the percent proportion is a special proportion which can be used to find a missing part, whole, or percent. And our percent proportion is percent over 100 equals the part over the whole. Now let's look at an example of the percent proportion in use. Example 1. In a computer lab, there are 24 desktops and 16 laptops. What percentage of the computers are desktops? Now, before we start, let's identify our percent, our part, and our whole. Okay. Excuse me. So the first question says, what percentage? So that means our percent in this problem is going to be unknown. What percentage of the computers are desktops? Well, we know that there are 24 desktops. So our part is going to be 24. Now, the whole, we're going to have to add up the total number of computers. So we're going to have to add 24 plus 16. So 20 plus 10 is 30, 4 plus 10 is 6, or excuse me, 4 plus 6 is 10, so that would be 40. There are 40 computers total, okay? So we're going to set up our percent proportion, which is percent over 100. Now in this problem we don't know the percent, so I'll call it x over 100 equals 24 over 40. Now to solve the percent proportion, we need to find the scale factor. But it's not easy to identify the scale factor with this proportion written like it is. So sometimes you can find the scale factor easily if you simplify one of the fractions. So what if I were to just divide both of these, the numerator and the denominator, by 2? So let's rewrite this. X over 100 will equal 24 divided by 2 is 12. 40 divided by 2 is 20. Simply by reducing that second fraction, we can now see the scale factor much easier because we know that 20 goes into 100 5 times. So our scale factor is 5. So if I multiply the denominator by 5, I can multiply the numerator by 5 to find my missing number. So 12 times 5 would be 60. So the question was, what percentage of the computers are desktop? So the answer to that question is 60% of the computers are desktops. All right. If 4 of the computers in the computer lab are out of service, what percentage of the computers in the lab are working properly? So let's identify our percent, our part, and our whole. Okay, again, we do not know the percentage in this problem. That's what the question's asking us for. And we want to know the percentage of the computers that are working properly. So it told us that 4 were out of service. 4 out of 40, as a matter of fact, are out of service. That means 36 out of 40 are working properly. 36 out of 40 are working properly. So let's set up our percent proportion again. X over 100 equals 36 out of 40. Now what I want you to do is pause the video and try the rest of this problem on your own. You can look at the problem above to help you. When you're done, press play and come back and check your answers. All right, welcome back. I did this problem exactly like I did the one above it. I simplified that second fraction in hopes that I could more easily determine the scale factor. So when I simplified it, I got x over 100 equals 18 over 20. Then I could see that 20 times 5 was my scale factor. So I'll multiply 18 times 5. And 18 times 5 is 90. So 90% of the computers are working properly. All right, example 2. Brian saved $75 towards a new $250 mountain bike. What percent of the total cost of the bike has Brian saved? So we're going to identify our percent, our part, and our whole. So again, I do not know my percentage. That's my unknown. And I know the part is 75, and I know my whole is 250. So when I set up my percent proportion, I'll have x over 100 equals 75 over 250. Now, for me, it's very easy to identify the scale factor in this problem because 250 divided by 100, when we divide by 100, we just move the decimal in 2 places. So I know that to get from here to here, I'm simply dividing by 2.5. So I would just have to do the same thing to the top to find my missing number. I'm going to divide by 2.5. So 75 divided by 2.5 is the same thing as 750 divided by 25. So 25 goes into 750. 25 goes into 75 3 times. Subtract and bring down. 25 goes into 0 times. So x in this problem would be 30. So Brian has saved 30% of the price of the bike. He has saved 30% of the price of the bike. All right. Example 3. Yesterday, 170 guests at a hotel called for room service, and 255 guests did not call for room service. What percentage of the guests at this hotel called for room service yesterday? So we're going to identify our percent, our part, and our whole. All right. So our percentage, again, that's our unknown. We don't know that. And we're looking for the percentage that called for room service. So I know 170 guests called for room service. So our part is 170. Now, to get the whole, I'm going to have to add up the total number of guests at the hotel. So that would be 5, 12, carry the 1, 2, 3, 4. So our whole is 425. So when I set up my percent proportion, I'm going to have x over 100 equals 170 over 425. Now again, for me, it's very easy to see that my scale factor here is that we're dividing by 4.25. Okay, so I'm going to have to divide this 170 by 4.25. So 170 divided by 4.25 is equal to 1,700 divided by 42.5, which is equal to 17,000 divided by 425. So that's what we're going to divide. So I'm going to use a little ratio table here. Let's see, 425 goes into 17,000. Let me use a little ratio table on the side to figure out how many times 425 will go into 1,700. So 1 times 425 is 425. If I double that, I get 850. If I double that again, 850 doubled would be, oh, nice, 1,700. So I know 4 times 425 is 1,700. Subtract and bring down. 425 goes into 0 times. So in this problem, x is equal to 40. So that means 40% of the guests called for room service. All right, example 4. There are 90 girls and 60 boys in the 6th grade at a middle school. Of these students, 9 girls and 3 boys write left-handed. What percentage of the 6th graders at the middle school write left-handed? Pause this video and try this problem on your own. When you're ready to check your answer, press play. All right, welcome back. The first thing I did was I identified the percent, the part, and the whole. So I do not know the percent. That was my unknown. Now the part, this is a little bit hard to figure out because we're trying to find the percentage of the 6th graders who write left-handed. And all I know is 9 girls and 3 boys write left-handed. So my part is going to be 12. Excuse me, because there are 12 students, 9 girls and 3 boys who write left-handed. The whole would be the total number of students in the 6th grade. And in this problem, the total number was 90 plus 60, which is 150. So hopefully you did the first part of the problem correct. So then I'm going to say x over 100 equals 12 divided by 1, oh, I don't know why I wrote 1.50. I meant to write 12 divided by 150. Now here, I could easily determine that the scale factor, if I divide 150 by 1.5, I would get 100. So I'm going to divide 12 by 1.5. So 12 divided by 1.5 is the same thing as 120 divided by 15. So if I want to divide 15 into 120, so I'll do a ratio table here. 1 times 15 is 15. If I double that, that's 30. Double it again, and I get 60. Double it again, and I get 120. So I know that 15 goes into 128 times with a remainder of 0. So here x is equal to 8. So I can say 8% of the students write left-handed. %8 of the students write left-handed. All right, example 5. Tori scored 18 out of 25 on her last math quiz in Miss Adams' class. Kendra scored 16 out of 20 on her last quiz in Mr. Garcia's class. Which student made the better grade on their last quiz? So what we're going to do is figure out Tori's grade and then figure out Kendra's grade. Okay. So it said Tori scored 18 out of 25. So our percent proportion would be x over 100 equals 18 over 25. Now, luckily for us, it's really easy to figure out the scale factor in this problem, because if we take 25 and multiply it by 4, we're going to get 100. So all we have to do is the same thing as 18. So 18 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32. That would be 72. So Tori's grade was 72%. All right, Kendra scored 16 out of 20. So this percent proportion would be x over 100 equals 16 over 20. Now, it's pretty easy to see the scale factor here. 20 will go into 100 5 times. So we're multiplying by 5. So 16 times 5 would be 80%. So Kendra got the better grade. And that concludes today's lesson, using the percent proportion to find the percent.